And welcome everyone to the Riverside County Board Brief as we give you a brief look at what took place during today's Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting. My name is Pep Fernandez. Joining us here at the top of the show, Brooke Federico, the Public Information Officer for the County of Riverside. And Brooke, first off, some exciting news for those in-home care providers, and it looks like they're going to increase their wages. At least we're moving in that direction now.
Exactly. Today, our Board of Supervisors approved a tentative agreement for wage increases for our in-home supportive services caregivers. Now, these caregivers provide an absolutely critical service. They're providing support for elderly or disabled residents so that they can stay safely in their homes and out of either an assisted living facility or a hospital. I think a lot of people really want to stay in their homes. They just need additional support to do that. So what happened today is the board again approved a tentative agreement over 3 years. These workers are set to receive $2.50 increase to their current wages. After this point, that tentative agreement will go to the union that represents these caregivers as well as the state for additional approvals before it comes back to the board for a final approval.
So today they passed it to move it along, right? So we're inching closer to that finish line.
Exactly. So it was a critical first step in reaching an agreement. Again, it's a tentative agreement, and it will go to their union. And it's really a marker to these really critical caregivers that the board is looking to increase their wages.
Yeah, that's great news. Brooke Federico, the Public Information Officer for the County of Riverside. Thank you, Brooke. Always appreciate the time.
I always appreciate doing this with you, Pep. You really make it fun. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Brooke. All right. Well, now moving along, let's talk about poppies here in Southern California. It was a very wet January. Let's take a look at some video from earlier today because we had Bruce Barton, the Director of the Emergency Management Department, going before the board. Now, there are some California poppies blooming in southwest Riverside County in the kind of Lake Elsinore area, but it is not a super bloom, and we want to make that very clear. Now, Bruce Barton, the Director of the Emergency Management Department, talked to the board about how they're going to support the residents, the businesses, and of course the environment in that area of Riverside County.
Experts that we are talking to do not expect that there will be a super bloom or anything that is even remotely close to what we saw in 2019. Nonetheless, keeping public safety is our #1 priority. The county, City of Lake Elsinore, CHP, and Caltrans have been coordinating preparedness and response plans to ensure that we can mitigate any potential impacts. We're working with some of the lessons learned in 2019, dusting off those plans. We have an incident action plan that we have in place, the city has, and that is in cooperation with the city, of course. The objectives of those planning efforts are public safety, minimizing impacts to residents, businesses, and the environment.
All right, that was Bruce Barton, the Director of the Emergency Management Department. Now, shifting gears, we also had a chance to check in with Mark Lancaster, the Director of Transportation here for the County of Riverside. Today, during the board meeting, they presented to the board that there's 3 notice of completions on different projects across the county, including slurry seal, road widening, and other projects taking place. Mark Lancaster has a recap.
The first project is a signal project in District 1 at Washington Street and Saddleback. That project is a needed project due to the volumes and delays in that area. It will help not only keep the traffic speeds within the speed limit, but it will also help improve operations on Washington Street and Saddleback Road. The second project that we issued a notice of completion on was a slurry seal and Americans with Disabilities Act ramp project. Basically, we slurried 104 street segments within districts 1 and 2 and replaced 42 curb ramps to provide for access for people in wheelchairs or have other mobility challenges. The third project that we also issued a notice of completion on was for a sidewalk and road widening project known as the Carver Tract, which is out in the Coachella Valley next to the city of Indio, kind of bounded by Van Buren Street and Avenue 48 on the south and Van Buren Street on the west. This particular project is probably one of my favorites only because it will provide much needed safe path of travel for students going to elementary school and the schools in the area. It'll also provide for the local community to provide, again, safe walking paths to local markets and transit bus stops, things like that. So those are the 3 projects that we have completed, and the Board of Supervisors approved those notices of completion, and we're on to doing more good work within the County of Riverside.
And a big thanks to Mark Lancaster, the Director of Transportation for the County of Riverside. And finally, here on the board brief, Supervisor Yxstian Gutierrez took a moment to highlight a grant that will benefit behavioral health and a recovery village.
Finally, give a shout out, that we did approve 3.23, which is additional $85 million, to accept grants for behavioral health. I know that there's more that needs to be done, so I'm glad that we were able to do that. That's a good thing.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Gutierrez. And that's going to wrap up this edition of the Riverside County Board Brief. My name is Pep Fernandez, and we'll see you next time.